So, gentlemen, if you're over 50 and your libido feels stuck in neutral while everything else seems to be slowing down, there's one spice sitting in your kitchen cabinet that might change everything in ways you never expected. I'm talking about saffron, not the expensive stuff you use once a year for paella, but a simple daily microdose that could reignite something you thought was gone for good. I'm Dr. Nicole Grant, and welcome back to Beyond the Pill channel, where we explore what really works beyond the prescription pad. Today's story started in my office 3 months ago when a 69-year-old patient, let's call him Robert, walked in frustrated and tired of feeling like a shadow of his former self. What happened next surprised both of us, and I think it'll surprise you too. Here's what I'm going to share with you: the exact protocol Robert followed, the science that explains why this ancient spice affects your brain and circulation differently than anything else, and most importantly, the realistic timeline and caveats you need to know before trying this yourself. We'll cover his daily routine, what changed in the first 4 weeks, the safety considerations that matter, and I'll give you a simple protocol you can start tomorrow. But here's the thing. Studies show saffron influences dopamine pathways and nitric oxide production in ways that directly impact libido. But the real story is in how one man's experiment became a case study in patience and realistic expectations. Now, before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Have you ever tried natural approaches for energy and vitality? Drop your age and city in the comments below and hit that subscribe button because we're about to explore territory that most doctors never discuss with their patients. Let's start with Robert's story and why he decided to try something completely different. Robert came to my office on a Tuesday morning looking defeated. He'd been married for 42 years, was in decent health for his age, but told me something that broke my heart. "Doc, I feel like I'm disappointing my wife, and honestly, I'm disappointing myself. It's not just about sex. I don't even feel interested anymore. It's like that part of me just turned off." This wasn't about erectile dysfunction or performance anxiety. This was about desire itself vanishing. And Robert was tired of feeling like a stranger in his own body. What caught my attention wasn't his complaint. I hear this weekly from men his age. It was what he said next. "I've been reading about saffron online, and I know it sounds crazy, but I'm willing to try anything that doesn't come with a list of side effects longer than my grocery list." Robert had done his homework. He'd found studies from Iran and Italy showing saffron's effects on mood and sexual interest, and he wanted to know if there was any real science behind it. Most patients ask for the quick fix. Robert was asking for the truth. Here's the protocol Robert decided to follow after our discussion. 30 milligrams of high-quality saffron threads, steeped in hot water every morning at 7 a.m., right after his coffee but before breakfast. No fancy supplements, no expensive extracts, just pure saffron threads from a reputable spice merchant, measured carefully with a small digital scale. He committed to 8 weeks, keeping a simple daily journal rating his energy, mood, and interest levels on a scale of 1 to 10. The key was consistency and patience, two things that are hard to come by when you're desperate for change. The first 2 weeks were subtle. Robert reported feeling a little more like myself around day 10, but nothing dramatic. His energy improved slightly, and he noticed he was thinking about intimacy more often, not obsessively, but naturally, the way he remembered from years past. By week 3, something shifted. His wife mentioned he seemed more engaged, more present during conversations. Robert described it as the fog lifting slowly. This wasn't a miracle transformation. It was a gentle awakening of something that had been dormant, and that made all the difference in how sustainable this change would be. Let me explain why Robert's experience wasn't just placebo effect or wishful thinking. Saffron contains two powerful compounds, crocin and saffronol, that work on your brain and body in ways that most people, including many doctors, don't fully understand. These compounds cross the blood-brain barrier and directly influence dopamine and serotonin pathways, the same neurotransmitters that control motivation, pleasure, and yes, sexual desire. Think of dopamine as your brain's want system. When it's functioning properly, you feel motivated and interested in life, including intimate connections. Here's where it gets interesting for men over 50. As we age, dopamine production naturally declines, which explains why many guys feel less driven, less interested in activities they once enjoyed, including sex. Saffron's crocin acts like a gentle tune-up for these pathways, not by forcing artificial stimulation like some medications do, but by supporting your brain's natural chemistry. Studies from the University of Guelph showed that saffron supplementation increased dopamine activity by approximately 25% in participants over 8 weeks. That's significant without being overwhelming. But saffron doesn't stop at your brain. The saffronal compound has a direct effect on blood vessel function and nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is crucial for healthy circulation everywhere in your body, including the areas that matter most for sexual function. Unlike synthetic vasodilators that force blood vessels open, saffron supports your body's natural ability to regulate blood flow. Research published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine found that men taking 30 milligrams of saffron daily showed improved endothelial function, that's the lining of your blood vessels, within 4 weeks. What makes saffron different from other so-called natural aphrodisiacs is the dual action. It works on both the psychological component, desire and interest, and the physical component, circulation and response, simultaneously. Most supplements target one or the other, but rarely both. This explains why Robert experienced changes in both his mental state and his physical responses. The science suggests that saffron doesn't create artificial arousal. It removes the barriers that prevent your natural systems from working the way they're supposed to work. Here's where most people get saffron completely wrong. They either take too little and see no results, or they take too much and experience side effects that make them quit. Robert's success came from understanding that with saffron, precision matters more than enthusiasm. The sweet spot for libido and circulation benefits is 30 milligrams of pure saffron threads daily. Not powder, not extract, but actual threads. This might seem like a tiny amount, but saffron is incredibly potent. To put this in perspective, 30 milliliters is roughly equivalent to a large pinch between your thumb and forefinger. Timing is just as crucial as dosage. Robert took his saffron every morning at 7 a.m. for a specific reason. Saffron's effects on dopamine are most pronounced when your cortisol levels are naturally rising, which happens in the early morning hours. Taking it with your morning routine also ensures consistency, and consistency is everything with natural approaches. Some studies suggest evening doses, but morning consumption allows the compounds to work throughout the day when you're most likely to be socially and physically active with your partner. The preparation method Robert used is simple but important. He would steep 30 milliliters of saffron threads in 6 ounces of hot water, not boiling, but hot enough to see steam, for exactly 5 minutes. Then he'd drink the entire mixture, threads and all. Don't strain it out. Those threads contain concentrated compounds that continue releasing as they move through your digestive system. Some people add a teaspoon of honey, which actually helps with absorption, but avoid milk or cream, as dairy can interfere with the bioavailability of saffron's active compounds. You'll know it's working when you notice subtle changes in your overall energy and interest levels, usually between days 7 and 14. Robert described it as feeling more like myself again. Not superhuman, not artificially stimulated, just more engaged with life. If you're not noticing anything by week 3, the issue might be quality rather than quantity. Cheap saffron often lacks the concentration of active compounds needed for therapeutic effects. Look for saffron with deep red threads and a strong, almost metallic aroma. That's your indicator of potency and freshness. Let me be completely honest about Robert's results because managing expectations is crucial here. After 8 weeks of daily saffron, Robert didn't turn into a 25-year-old again, and that's not the goal. What he did experience was a gradual return of natural interest and energy that felt sustainable and authentic. By week 4, he reported thinking about intimacy 3 to 4 times per week instead of barely once. His wife noticed he was more affectionate, more present during conversations, and more likely to initiate physical contact. Not just sexual, but the kind of touching and closeness that had gradually disappeared over the years. The physical changes were more subtle but equally important. Robert's morning energy improved significantly. He described waking up feeling ready for the day, instead of needing 2 hours to feel human. His circulation seemed better overall, his hands and feet weren't as cold, and he noticed improved sensitivity during intimate moments. However, saffron didn't solve underlying erectile function issues or dramatically increase stamina. What it did was restore the desire and interest that made addressing those other concerns feel worthwhile again. Here's what didn't change, and this is important. Robert still needed to maintain his overall health habits. Saffron isn't a magic bullet that compensates for poor sleep, lack of exercise, or chronic stress. In fact, the men who see the best results with saffron are those who are already taking reasonable care of themselves. Robert continued his daily walks, maintained his sleep schedule, and kept his alcohol consumption moderate. The saffron worked synergistically with these habits, not as a replacement for them. The timeline matters too. Week 1 to 2, subtle energy improvements. Week 3 to 4, noticeable increase in interest and mental clarity. Week 5 to 8, sustained improvements that felt natural rather than forced. Some men see changes faster, others need the full 8 weeks, and a small percentage don't respond significantly at all. Robert fell into the typical response pattern, which gave us confidence that what he was experiencing was genuine and likely to continue as long as he maintained the protocol. Before Robert started his saffron protocol, we had a serious conversation about safety that every man needs to hear. Saffron is generally safe at therapeutic doses, but natural doesn't mean harmless for everyone. The most important contraindication is for men taking blood thinners like warfarin or clopidogrel. Saffron has mild anticoagulant properties, which means it can enhance the effects of these medications and potentially increase bleeding risk. If you're on any blood-thinning medication, you absolutely must consult your doctor before trying saffron supplementation. Blood pressure medications require special attention too. Saffron can have a mild hypotensive effect. It may lower blood pressure slightly, which is usually beneficial, but if you're already on ACE inhibitors or beta blockers, the combination could drop your pressure too much. Robert's blood pressure was well controlled with lifestyle measures, so this wasn't a concern for him. However, if you're on multiple BP medications or have a history of hypotensive episodes, start with half the dose and monitor your response carefully. The side effects at 30 mg daily are typically minimal, but they do exist. About 10% of people experience mild stomach upset during the first week, which usually resolves as your system adjusts. Taking saffron with food can minimize this. Some men report vivid dreams or slightly altered sleep patterns during the first 2 weeks. This is related to saffron's effects on serotonin and usually normalizes. More concerning is the potential for mood changes in men with a history of bipolar disorder or severe depression. Saffron affects neurotransmitter balance, and while this is generally positive, it can occasionally trigger mood swings in susceptible individuals. Here's the critical safety point. Doses above 50 mg daily can be dangerous. High doses of saffron can cause nausea, vomiting, and in extreme cases, more serious complications. Some online sources suggest higher doses for faster results. Ignore this advice completely. The 30 mg dose Robert used is based on clinical research and provides optimal benefits with minimal risk. More is not better with saffron. Consistency at the right dose is what matters. If you have any chronic health conditions, take multiple medications, or have concerns about interactions, have this conversation with your healthcare provider before starting any new supplement protocol. Let me give you Robert's exact morning routine that made this work. Every evening before bed, he would measure out 30 milliliters of saffron threads using a small digital scale, the kind used for jewelry or herbs, available for about $15 online. He'd place the threads in a small glass cup and leave it on his kitchen counter next to his coffee maker. This evening preparation was crucial because mornings are busy, and measuring saffron when you're half awake leads to inconsistent dosing. The key to success with any natural protocol is removing friction from the process. At 7 a.m. sharp, right after starting his coffee but before eating anything, Robert would pour 6 ounces of hot water over the pre-measured saffron threads. The water should be hot enough to see steam but not boiling. Boiling water can break down some of saffron's delicate compounds. He'd let it steep for exactly 5 minutes while he prepared his breakfast, then drink the entire mixture, including the threads. The slight bitterness was offset by adding 1 teaspoon of raw honey, which also helps with absorption. This became as automatic as brushing his teeth, and that consistency was everything. What amplified Robert's results was combining the saffron with complementary habits he was already doing. His daily 30-minute walk happened about 2 hours after taking the saffron, which seemed to enhance the circulation benefits. He made sure to get sunlight during these walks, supporting his natural vitamin D production and circadian rhythm. On weekends, he and his wife would prepare the saffron tea together, making it a small shared ritual rather than a solitary health task. These little touches transformed a supplement routine into a lifestyle enhancement that felt natural and sustainable. Your weekly check-in should be simple but consistent. Every Sunday morning, Robert would rate his energy, mood, and interest levels from the previous week on a scale of 1 to 10, noting any changes or patterns. He also tracked sleep quality and overall sense of well-being. This isn't about obsessing over numbers. It's about staying connected to how you're actually feeling rather than hoping for dramatic changes that might not come. After 8 weeks, you should have a clear picture of whether saffron is making a meaningful difference in your life, and that data helps you decide whether to continue long-term. If this video helped you understand something new about natural approaches to vitality and libido, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It really helps us reach more men who need this information. Share this with someone who might benefit, and let me know in the comments what your experience has been with natural supplements, or if you're planning to try the saffron protocol. Robert's story reminds us that sometimes the most profound changes come not from dramatic interventions, but from consistent, patient application of simple, science-backed approaches. Saffron won't turn back the clock, but it might help you feel more like yourself again, and sometimes that's exactly what we need. Always remember, the truth goes beyond the pill.